So I'm back with another one with Over the Top the podcast. I am your host, Demond Hicks, and as y'all know, I always bring special guests on here. This special guest right here, man, mean a lot to me, man. Had a conversation with him for the first time, and we connected, man. And now I'm his adopted nephew. I call him Monk. And man, I'm gonna let him introduce himself real quick, man. Go ahead.
My name is Hearn Jr.
Okay, yes, sir. And man, I appreciate you for coming on, man.
I appreciate being here.
Absolutely. And so, man, we decided to make this conversation based off of fatherhood, man. A lot of us had issues with our fathers. Some, even had their father in the household and had issues with their father. Some didn't have their father at all. But we had a conversation a couple weeks ago that I was like, oh, man, my audience got to hear this. My audience got to, understand that even the older and the younger, we dealt with things and we still have trauma or still have, unanswered questions or things that we dealt with at a young age.
Exactly.
So what's your thoughts on that? I mean, just as far as the father.
Well, I have to go by my personal experience.
Yeah.
I had a father who's present but absent.
Mm-hmm.
Present in the physical form, absent in everything else as far as bringing up a son. I guess his main goal was to provide, but you have to provide more than a roof over your head, food and clothing. There's a aspect of fatherhood that have to connect with that son from a young age, even just playing catch, going someplace together, hanging out, separate from your mom, and develop an individual relationship with that son is very important.
Yeah, and that's something that I always had talked about because I always talk to you about me with my father. He understand that he was there in my life, but he don't understand that hey, I needed that time. I wanted you to spend time with me, and it's crazy because even now to this day he still don't kind of fully understand. Like I still want your time, and you know.
Right.
And so like just being young, and so you was being young with a parent, a father in your household. What were some of the things that you think, could have been better?
Well, I think just as a child, you paying attention to your dad, you watching him,
Yeah.
you molding yourself like your dad.
Yeah.
And if he don't recognize that, that's really a shame. Because I remember when I was 7 years old, I used to watch him shave and, watch him get ready for work, and I try to mimic all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was kind of separation at age 9. I noticed that he, kind of distanced himself, not necessarily for me, but maybe from a lot of things. But I missed that. And I think as a young boy growing up, it's important for your dad, even if he's not in the same relationship in the same household, connect with your son. Teach him how to tie his first tie.
All right.
Teach him how to drive. Teach him about the car. Teach him about women, girls, just little hints. And that wasn't there. So what happens is when he's present but absent, you try to find other male figures to fill that gap.
Right.
And they're not going to always be the positive ones.
Right. right. Yeah. Hey, so I wanted you to tell the people the story you told me about when you was trying to figure out where your dad was going every morning and then what you ended up doing.
Well, he used to come home. We used to have in the evening, this after school. We'd come home, have dinner. And then I noticed maybe 30, 40 minutes would pass and he would get dressed or put his coat on and he would leave. And I used to always wonder, where is he going after dinner? And then I don't see him when he come back because obviously we in the bed. So one time I got curious and I think I might have been 7 or 8 years old. So I decided weeks prior to that, I'll start planning what I'm going to do. So this particular night I decided I'm going to get in the car.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out there, got my jacket on, got my hat. I went in our car, laid down in the back seat ahead of him. I was like 10 minutes ahead of him. And so he didn't see me. And he got in the car, felt it, backing up, driving on down the road. And then maybe 15 minutes passed and the fellas come to a stop. And I got a little nervous because I thought, well, we're stopping because he didn't discover I'm in the back seat on the floorboard. But as it turned out, he didn't discover me. I just heard him get out the car. And so maybe 10 minutes passed. I started peeping around, over the seat, looking out the window. I just seen we wasn't at home. I didn't recognize where we were. Mm-hmm. But we was inside of a business strip, like a office buildings or something. So I decided, well, I better get out and go find Daddy.
Right. Yeah.
So I proceeded to get out the car, walked inside this building, and all I seen was office. I seen people walking around, and I was just kind of overwhelmed, like, I don't see my dad. Right. And so some guy came up to me and he said, "Son, can I help you?" I said, "Yeah, I'm looking for my dad." He said, "Who's your dad?" And I didn't really know my dad's name or nothing. Yeah. I just said, "Well, I know he came in this building." But, yeah. He said, "Well, I'll tell you what, let's go over and have a seat in the waiting room and maybe I can, help you find your dad." And before he went to look for his dad, he asked me that want anything. I said, "Sure." So he got me a candy bar at the machine, and this is Three Musketeer. That's why I still love those today from that day. But he said, "Just have a seat there." I was eating my candy, watching TV, just kind of nervous, like I don't know what's my dad's response going to be. And eventually, my dad came out, and he came by that waiting room. He looked over and said, "Junior?" And I just said, man, my eyes was big. I was nervous. He said, "What? He was just confused, man. What are you doing here?" I couldn't even speak. Yeah. He said, "Just stay there. I'll come get you in a minute." And he never talked to me about that on the way home. That was the strange thing. He put me in the front seat, and we just drove home. He didn't ask any questions. And then as soon as we got in the house, got a beat down. Mama beat me down, man. Daddy didn't try to save me or nothing.
Tell you what. Hey, so do you think from that situation you was curious because of the relationship that y'all didn't really have?
No, because I didn't realize we didn't have a relationship till we got like 9, 10, 11. Okay. At that point, it would have been nice for him to say, "Well, don't do this. Sit me down. Yeah. Explain to me. You don't just go get in the car and wonder where I'm going. Just ask. Yeah. Let's sit down and have a conversation about it."
So having a father in the household, but ain't like they're doing things with you, you think that's like difficult for a lot of kids?
It is. It is. And a lot of people don't know what that little child is going through, especially a boy. Yeah. They don't know what that boy is going to. When you ask your dad to, show you how to tie your first tie, and he say, "Well, go tell your brother." That sticks with you. Like, yeah, absolutely. Why didn't you just help me? You're my dad. Yeah. This is my thinking, as the 9, 10-year-old. Yeah. And that kind of affects you later in life. It stays with you.
Mm-hmm. And I remember I was telling you how, like, with my dad, as far as, like, trying to go places, I took my daughter. Remember I said I took my daughter, right, y'all? Mm-hmm. And I took her to the park. And I think she was like, "Did you go to the park with your dad?" I was like, "Nah, he ain't never take me." And she was like, "Well, why didn't you ask him?" And I was like, "You kind of got to wait." But it's just funny how kids just, be like, they can kind of understand that, but they don't really understand, like, "Oh, no, I don't feel like I should have had asked him at that age." I mean, as far as right. I feel like that's just something that a father should want to do.
But see, your child, she would do that now if you wasn't taking her anywhere. She'd probably ask. That's how wise these children are. Right. But imagine that. That's how I felt. Because people don't understand. Children, man, they're very wise at things, man. They comprehend things that you don't think they do. So I just wondered, why are you here but you're not here? That's what I mean by present but absent. Yeah. And I don't care if you're not in the same house with your sons. Connect with them, man. It's important. You're the first model of manhood that they're gonna see. Mm-hmm. You gotta teach them everything, man. And I didn't get that, but you can't use that for excuses. When you get a certain age, because then you start developing your own sense of manhood and what it is. But
that's why I appreciate you for telling me. Like, every time I talk to you, you just be like, you listen to me talk about the podcast, all different. I think messed up my word. All different type of things. But you also tell me, like, make sure you spending time with them girls. You make sure you got that time where they have their time. Because I'll be trying to do all type of different things. Right. But you always say, make sure you got that time, because that time is most valuable. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. And you said you got kids yourself. So you were just telling me, I make sure, you spending that time, you taking them out, because time go fast, huh?
Even if it's 1 or 2 days out the week, because a young man like you who's on his way up, yes, you got a lot of things doing, but they're all positive. Mm-hmm. It's not like you're going hanging out with your fellas, playing video games for hours. You're not neglecting them in that way. So but it's still important to develop some time for them children. That way they can, as they grow, man, they see that, they feel that, and you bring you closer. And how also helps them develop into an adult, you know, with responsibilities and, you know, the ability to think and make decisions and make choices. They're going to model themselves after you.
Absolutely. So I got a question for you. What advice would you just give to young fathers? And then I'm going to ask you, what advice would you give for young mothers as well that's listening?
Young fathers, I would say, pay attention to, you know, to your children. And if you can't make a life for your children, you know, like if you can't be in their life, should I say, stop having children, you know, because the ones you have, man, they're going to remember that, hey, my dad was here for, you know, like twice a week out the, you know, month or out the year. And then you got to explain to them where you was. Well, I had other kids. Well, why?
Wow. Yeah.
So I would say spend time with your kids. Design time for them.
All right. What advice would you give to the young mothers?
Young mothers, I would advise them stop becoming mothers at such a young age and focus on themselves. You know,
That's a gem.
Yeah,
Let that go of your
focus on
head.
themselves, and stop being in competition with other young women. You know, work on yourself. Sometimes step away from social media, TV, radio. Sit in there, and meditate about your life. Contemplate your next steps.
So I got listeners that don't have kids, and you kind of said it. But as far as the men and young women that's listening to this, before they have kids, what advice would you give to them?
To use critical thinking and look at their future. You know, when you're in high school, kind of see where you want to be in 5 years. Do you want to be, you know, with a family at a young age, which is nothing wrong with that. As long as you dedicate yourself to that, once it start happening, you have that first kid at a young age, then dedicate your life to being a parent, to being a mother or father. But before that, you know, just use critical thinking, you know, and think how you can avoid certain situations in life. You know, and that comes from thinking about yourself. And close that gap of your friends, man. You know, get that smaller circle of friends. Don't have too many friends, man. Just have that small one, and hopefully most of them being from the family.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I appreciate that. I needed that myself, because I mean, just me being young, a young father, I feel like all I needed was. Some people think it's common sense, but at that age, I didn't have that conversation with my mother or my dad about the birds and the bees.
And so that's what I'm talking about. That's what's missing. These not just dads, but there's also some moms that's present but absent as well. And child need both. Yeah. But if you're a boy, you need your dad more. If you're a girl, you need your mom more. Yeah. And sometimes they bypass all that, rather, you know, whatever, for whatever reason. It could be religious reasons, could be they wasn't brought up like that. But it's an important conversation to have with your children. It would avoid a lot.
Man, I definitely needed that. All the kids I got, man, it just, I look back. That's why the advice that I would give, like just like you had just said, to young fathers and young mothers, focus on yourself. Like if you're a young father, really make sure whatever it is that you're doing, even if you don't got kids just yet, like you were saying, really focusing on yourself and getting prepared for the future. But to the young fathers and the young mothers, like what I mean by focusing on yourself, when you got a kid, everything about to be coming fast and reality just hits you, so you got another mouth to feed. So what I mean by that, if y'all are together, then in that relationship, y'all got to be focused on yourself. So if you the guy in a relationship, then make sure you got your own crib, or make sure you get your crib, a car, some money, a job. You young lady with a child, do the same exact thing, because what happens is, and I know the people that's listening to this know plenty of people that's in this situation where it's the baby daddy living with the baby mama, and they always getting into it, fighting and arguing. Right. She putting him out every all the time, and he lose a job, he still staying there. She working, she doing her thing, but he not. I'd have been in a situation like that, so it ain't just that I'd have heard it. When I was younger, 18, I was living with my children's mother, and what happens is, if I'm not bringing in, handling my business as a man, and that's how a woman gonna treat you, because as a man, you gotta be the protector and provider. And if you ain't doing one of them, it's gonna be uneven in that household.
Exactly. And you're a perfect example of what young fathers should be doing. And you did a whole 360 though.
Yeah.
You turned everything around, man. Now look where you're at now.
Yeah.
You know, you're young with children,
Yeah.
but you're dedicated to their future.
Absolutely.
And you're doing things right now, you're making moves right now that's going to benefit them for life.
Absolutely. And that's why I try to like let people know I ain't perfect, and that's why I talk about a lot of my stories. When I was 18, I wasn't able to give my daughters, my one daughter, nothing for Christmas. You know, we talked about that.
Yeah, we spoke about Christmas.
But I wasn't able to get her nothing for Christmas. Made me feel some type of way. But I had a buddy that gave me some money to be able to do that. But moving forward in my life, because what happened was me being young, since I wasn't able to do that, that next year I ended up spending every check, just cashing out. Until I realized, like, that don't matter. What matter is I'm spending time with my kids and making sure that I am giving her enough to be able to, live how she's supposed to live. If that's me giving her mother money, or me just buying my daughter clothes and stuff like that. And what I want to say too is, man, the young fathers and young mothers, let's not underestimate each other, because as a young father, we trying to figure out how to become a father, and we didn't really have one in front of us. So we trying to, the ones that didn't have a father, or the ones that did, and the
Right.
father wasn't really there as much. So we trying to figure out. And I want to say this to the young fathers as well, because I ain't off the hook. Don't underestimate what a mother do. It's not easy being a single mother or a mother with kids. Imagine going into. I remember my first experience when I had took my daughters to the doctor's appointment, and I changed her. Went into the doctor's appointment. Soon we got in there, she pooped again. So I had to take her to the bathroom and do all that and get all my stuff together and take her back in there and then do that. Then the next experience I had, that's why I said don't underestimate the young mothers. I remember my children's mother, I had, I think, 2 kids at this time, and she had decided to go out of town. I think it was about a week.
Wow.
Yeah, and this was my first time really having them by myself a whole week, quote unquote, as a single father. So I ended up getting up earlier than I had to, getting them ready to take them to daycare, daycare. Well, get my clothes on, get their clothes on, feed them breakfast, feed myself breakfast,
Responsibility.
take them all the way out to the car, make sure, hey, I'm gonna contact, take them to the car, take them to daycare, then go to work, then do the opposite thing again. Get off work, go straight there, and it's like I think a lot of young fathers underestimate how much young mothers do. And also, I think a lot of young mothers underestimate the young fathers because we don't be knowing. So it's like we have to learn everything we have to learn. So like when it be a lot of young mothers telling me like, I wish it was more young fathers. Like I wouldn't like this. I wouldn't like this from square.
Right. You've been developing.
Yeah.
And that's what it is, development.
Yeah.
You may not come out perfect, but you work towards perfection.
Absolutely.
You know, and you'll never get to perfection, but just practicing being a good father and a good mother at such a young age, it's real valuable for your children, man. They see that.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. So I wanted to say this too. How would you go about? How would you go about healing? As far as some of the trauma that you dealt with as a kid, from that relationship with your father.
Well, you have to heal. There's a healing process. And I like to also advise young kids, young mothers and dads, or just, youth, period, to develop a relationship with God first. God is the key to everything in life.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to be, crazy religious or, try to be so righteous. Just develop a simple relationship with God.
Absolutely. God
And that is the way. But eventually, you have to come into your own self. You can no longer blame your dad or your mom because you're of age now to make decisions. You can, determine what you need to do in life, how you can get over the hump from all that drama in your early life. But you got to heal. You got to heal yourself. And then you have to take control. You can no longer point fingers and, this is what happened, this person. No, it's all on you at a certain age.
Yeah.
So you just have to grow from that.
Yeah, you're right. That was something that I had to heal from, even with my mother. I remember one day I had a conversation with her, and I think I was talking about why I wasn't in college, and then I was like, I'm not in college because of me, and she was like, oh dang, I thought you was gonna say it was because of me. She's like, you done grown. But yeah, I had to get in my mind like, okay, the decisions you made was because of you. You're not there because of you. No matter, it's a lot of people that didn't have their mother and father. They made the right decisions to get them where they at today. But man, like I do feel like relationships with parents, like another thing I wanted to share with the people that probably got bad relationships with their mother. I don't have a bad relationship with my mother. It's actually a good relationship now. But as a kid, my mother was raised without the love and affection. So her father, and go back to that. Her father didn't give her I love yous, hugs. So my mother raised us without the hugs. So when I be seeing dudes with their mothers and they be hugging them, I be, like my stepmother, the type where she hug, I love you, see you later.
Right.
I be seeing my stepbrothers not eating that up and taking advantage of that. You know what I'm saying? Like to this day, I could try to hug my mom. She kind of slightly got a little used to it, but she still look kind of like what you doing?
Yeah.
You know?
I haven't got used to it all this time, man.
Yeah, so-
Now you grown.
Yeah, so what's crazy is me raising my daughters in the beginning, like probably the first 3 years, and kind of still sometimes now, my daughters love affection. So they come over and they want, oh, your daddy, I love y'all, man. And I be like, I cringe because I didn't have it growing up. But I've learned to like, all right, every time I see him, I love you. Every time I leave, I love you, give you a hug. Every time I see him,
Please do.
Yeah.
Continue that. That's good behavior right there.
Absolutely. So they won't go trying to look for it elsewhere, you know what I'm saying? But as far as that, man, I think I got the one question too I want to ask you real quick before you got a little time. Okay, so I wanted to ask you this. Cause we had a conversation before. This is a little off subject, but we asked the question, would you want $1 million or would you take peace?
I would take peace. Because peace is from God. $1 million from people.
Right.
$1 million from man. Anything that man have had their hands on, it's going to be disastrous. So that peace is free from God.
I want to ask you this too, just to ask you a couple more questions, because I asked you this one time. I was seeing how like you just seem at peace. I mean, you seem just happy all the time. And how do you stay sane with everything that's going on?
I think mainly I stay happy because of everything I overcame from my childhood. Things that as a young teenager and young adult. And when you get by all those things, you're so thankful to God that He got you through all that. Then you're trying to give back. You're trying to be happy around people, trying to be a great influence. But let me get a little back. Let me give you a little background history on us.
Go ahead.
Me and Lamont worked together.
Yeah.
And only for 3 months?
Yeah.
But we developed a special relationship. That's my adopted nephew.
Yeah.
And he say he feeds off me, but actually I feeds off him, all the energy. He comes in with such energy that helps me stay happy. That's why I like to surround myself around people as yourself.
Okay.
That benefits me more, as well as benefits you.
Yeah. Hey, I appreciate that. And also, man, you taught me something within these months of knowing you and you adopting me of giving, man. Since the first day I met you, you kind of was like offering me things as far as just like help if I need any help. What do you what advice would you give to people on just the benefits of just being a giver and just being,
Well, when you're a giver, the more you give, the more God give you. So when you do something for people, do it from your heart, do it out of kindness, do it out of consideration and sensitivity. And whatever you do, God see that. So you don't need them to thank you or to try to pay you back. God will reward you. So that's what kind of keeps me humble and keep me grounded.
Absolutely. And so the last question was, what is it, the advice you would give to the young people?
I would, first of all, advise them to develop a relationship with God.
All right.
On some type of level, and then kind of meditate on themselves. Like I say, get away from social media sometime. Go in a quiet room and just meditate. Just think about yourself. Think about your situation, how you can improve it. Work on yourself. And I would like to, advise them, conquer yourself, then you can conquer the world.
Ooh, that's a gem. Okay, with that being said, is there anything else you want to share with the people?
Just to try to get in a situation that's going to keep you happy in life. And don't laugh a lot. Laughter is stress blockers. Trust me.
Yeah.
Laughter is my best medicine. So just like I say, work on yourself. Don't worry about, don't focus on too much of tomorrow. Kind of think about the future. Every day is going to bring its own trials and tribulations that you're going to have to go through.
Yeah.
So kind of picture yourself, where you want to be in the next 5 years, the next 10 years, and then start, set you some objectives, set you some goals, and then try to reach them. You might not reach them all at one time or all in one day, but just take those baby steps towards those objectives.
Okay. Hey, again, I appreciate you for coming, dropping all the gems, giving us advice. Man, I remember when I first met you, I asked you, I think one of the first questions I asked you was, man, I like to ask older black men as just in general, what advice would you give to a young black man at the age of 25? And shoot, I just be getting that answer every day I see you. And so, yeah, again, I appreciate you for coming in, sharing the knowledge and information with us. I feel like that father conversation we definitely gonna have again on here because we all, well, young black people just in general.
Exactly.
We have those issues with our fathers. And so, man, y'all tap in with another one, y'all. Appreciate y'all for listening. Peace.